Mission 2. Good day to you, Mr. Berman. How are you feeling today? Yuri Breer stood in a doorway and addressed the man in the small room before him in a friendly tone of voice. The man did not respond, however. My, this room has a rather unpleasant smell to it, doesn't it? I do apologize for that. Yuri, now 20 years old, had lost his parents at a young age and had been raised by his own living relative, his older sister, Yor. Yuri loved his sister more than anything in the world and was eager to do whatever he could to give her a better life. With her encouragement and his drive, he'd finished school at a young age and secured a prestigious job at the Ministry of Foreign Affairs. Yuri traveled around the continent as an elite young diplomat, or at least that was what was written in the public record. Yuri Breyer's real employer was the SSS, the State Security Service. He held the rank of lieutenant. We've opened windows and added fans, but nothing helps, he continued. There's nothing that can counteract the stench of a filthy traitor who sold out his country. And who do you think that stench is coming from, Mr. Berman? Yuri Breyer was an officer with the secret police. The captain called him over as soon as Yuri stepped out of the interrogation room. How long has it been since you've slept, kid? I appreciate your concern, sir, but I took a nap in the break room 3 days ago. I'm fine. Yuri saluted and flashed a warm smile. Yuri was tall and slim, and his face still had a child's soft features. The SSS uniform, normally so imposing, looked more like a schoolboy's uniform on the young lieutenant. I want to keep working hard to make this country a better place for my sister. A child's dream, straight from the mouth of a blushing schoolboy. Though, his captain. But he knew that Yuri was not the sweet, harmless young man that he appeared to be. Just now, in the interrogation room, he'd extracted a confession from a treasonous politician named Thomas Berman, whom no one else had managed to break. The black gloves Yuri wore were wet with what his captain could only assume was the traitor's blood. Lieutenant Yuri had earned a reputation of being very enthusiastic about his work. Take tomorrow off, the captain ordered. It's a holiday anyways. I'm telling you, I feel great, Yuri insisted. I couldn't be more energized about getting out there and doing my job. That's an order, the captain said flatly. We don't have time for holidays, Yuri said. We need to capture Twilight and put an end to the threat posed by Westalis. He's just like a dog, thought the captain. Sometimes it's like he's practically rabid. But he's also eager to please, and he's completely loyal to his master, the state, even if that's only because it happened to be where his sister lives. She's the reason he's thrown away far brighter prospects just to get his hands bloody with this job. Nowadays, it was diplomacy that attracted the nation's best and brightest, and it was an exhausting job that demanded everything from a person, perfect for Yuri. But he tossed it aside in favor of a dirty job conducted in windowless rooms. If the sister who single-handedly raised him knew what he really did for a living, how would she feel about that? Could that be the reason he's so determined to hide his real job from her? He was speculating, and there was nothing to be gained from that. But there was one thing the captain knew for sure. Everything Yuri Breyer did was for the sake of his sister. Her happiness was what he lived for. The captain had to admit it was admirable. He wasn't fool enough to let himself be overtaken by sentimentality, but he held his young subordinate in high esteem for his unwavering convictions, and that was why, even though the service was perpetually short-handed and overworked, he didn't want to see Yuri get used up and burnt out. Adequate rest is required to ensure high-quality work. Take tomorrow off. When you come back the next day, you'll be able to push yourself that much harder. If I may speak freely, sir, Yuri began, but the captain cut him off. Do it for your country and for your sister's future. At the mention of his sister, Yuri finally relented. Yes, sir. He looked more like a sulking teenager than an SSS officer. They tell me I have to take a day off, but what am I supposed to do? Yuri flopped down onto his bed and stared up at the cloudless sky through the window. He'd had nothing to do all morning. Didn't Dominic say he and Camilla were going away for the holidays? I wish I could go somewhere with Yor, like we used to, or even just get dinner together. Images of his sister's smiling face flashed through his mind. Finally, he was able to relax. Wait a minute. If today's a holiday, then shouldn't City Hall be closed? On his way to check the calendar, he stopped to gaze at the picture displayed on his dresser. His sister smiled back at him. Yuri flushed at the sight of his sister. She was so beautiful that Aphrodite herself would pale in comparison. If Yor's off work, maybe I could go see her. I haven't beheld her beauty in person for nearly 2 weeks. But if it was a holiday, Berlin General Hospital would be closed too. That would mean Lloyd Forger, a man he despised, also had the day off. To Yuri's deep vexation, Lloyd Forger had married his sister. Not that Yuri recognized the marriage, of course. As far as he was concerned, Lloyd Forger was nothing more than a despicable con man who had managed to steal away his beloved sister by virtue of being a tiny bit good-looking, a tiny bit tall, a tiny bit eloquent, and a doctor who knew a tiny, tiny bit about caring for others. Stupid Lloyd, he muttered angrily. Get back to work, you lazy bastard. I don't care if it's a holiday. Throw yourself into your job and work yourself to death. Yuri was growing irritated now that the image of the wretched grifter, Lloyd Forger, was lodged into his mind. The phone on the dresser rang, adding to his fury. Who would dare to call me this early in the morning? He picked it up and answered curtly. The call must have been from heaven, because the voice on the other side was so beautiful that it could only have come from the most radiant of angels. Yuri, hi, it's me, Yor. Yor? He stammered, his voice rising an entire octave. I'm sorry to call you so early, she said. Are you on your way to work? No, I have the day off today. Yor's voice brightened. Really? Yeah, that's right, Yuri said. No official travel or mandate overtime today, so I've got the whole day free. I'm so glad to hear that. The excitement in Yor's voice made Yuri's heart skip a beat. Listen to how happy she is. She must be so eager to see me. Suddenly, Yuri regretted all his grumbling towards his captain. Maybe I should bring him a big bouquet of flowers or something. Lloyd ended up having to work today, so he's not here right now. Yor's words grew sweeter and sweeter. Yuri could feel the tension going out of him, leaving his heart as pure and bright as the sky outside. He got some sort of urgent summons from the hospital or something. So Lloyd has to work today. That's rough. That's real rough. Yuri chose his words carefully, but he couldn't keep the excitement out of his voice. Yuri, Yor chastised him. He's your brother-in-law. Could you at least try to refer to him by his actual name? I've told you, no one calls him Lloyd. You just made that up. Just hearing the phrase brother-in-law made Yuri's skin crawl. But dutiful brother that he was, Yuri mumbled that yes, he would try. It was a promise he had no intentions of keeping. I still refuse to accept Forger as my sister's husband. I never will. I'll die before I accept it. And not even then. So I have a little favor to ask you, Yor said. Could you come over? Of course, Yor. I'll be right there. Heart pounding with joy, Yuri burst out his front door and ran straight for his sister's apartment building. His footsteps felt so light that he wasn't sure he ever touched the ground at all. I'm here, Yor, Yuri shouted as he threw open the front door to the Forger's apartment, a wide smile across his face. What do you want me to do? Get something from a high shelf? Move something heavy? Notarize divorce papers? Whatever you need. Oh, Yuri, you're here. Thank you for coming, said Yor, who'd been eagerly waiting his arrival. She returned his smile, and Yuri's heart leapt into his throat. Wow, Yor, you're so adorable today. I've got to be the luckiest man in the world for having the cutest, kindest sister. But just as Yuri was relishing his good fortune, a small life form emerged from behind his sister, as if to ruin his pleasant thoughts. Uncle, she said. Chihuahua girl, Yuri grunted. The life form was Anya Forger, Loy's bastard daughter. She was a complete moron who had once managed to mishear the phrase whole enchilada as swole chihuahua, hence Yuri's nickname for her. On the other hand, she claimed to be striving to succeed in school so that she could take care of Yor forever, which Yuri considered to be quite virtuous. But there was no escaping the fact that she had spawned from the loins of that grifter, Lloyd Forger. I'll not be deceived by their ilk. I'm not your uncle, I'm your step-uncle, he corrected. And why aren't you at school? It's a holiday, she pointed out. So it is. That does check out. Yuri rebuked himself for not anticipating her presence. Well, at least it's better than Lloyd being here. Let's hope she watches cartoons on TV or something and keeps out of our way. Oh, Yor, you know I would do anything for you, right? Oh, my sweet, sweet Yor. How perfect you are. Anya couldn't help but burp at that point. Reading Yuri's mind always gave her heartburn. How come you're always burping? Yuri asked. I eat a lot, Anya said. Vulgar creature, Yuri thought. Probably couldn't stop stuffing her face at breakfast. Well, it's not as if I don't understand the impulse. My sister's cooking is fantastic after all. It has the indescribable fragrance you just don't find anywhere else. And the more you chew it, the more exciting new flavors you discover. That's because she always uses such unique ingredients, like chunks of the chopping board, which are rich in nutrients and give your jaw a good workout. Oh, how I wish I could be an ingredient, to be lovingly chopped up, for one of Yor's culinary masterpieces. After spending a few moments internally shouting his love for his sister, Yuri turned to face her. So, what do you want me to do, Yor? I'll hold your bags, I'll clean the fan blades, I'll even do your laundry. Just say the word. Well, she began. Ah, of course, it's a beautiful day, and you want to make room in your closet for your summer wardrobe. And while we're reorganizing, we can put you and Lloyd in separate rooms. No, it's definitely not that. Overwhelmed by her brother's sudden intensity, Yor's old resolve seemed to be fading. She was clearly having trouble finding the right words. She's no less adorable when she's being shy, Yuri thought. What's wrong? I'm your brother, remember? I'll do anything. Just go ahead and say it. The thing is, Yor began, there's an event today, and City Hall is one of the sponsors. Mm-hmm. Millie said that she'd go and represent us, but she caught a cold. So just this morning, they called and asked me to replace her. But Lloyd couldn't get out of work, and our friend Frankie, who always helps us at times like this, doesn't seem to be home. Frankie? Who the hell is that? Yuri stiffened at the unfamiliar name. I've never heard her mention any Frankie before. Probably just some babysitter or something. You better be taking your job seriously, Frankie, because if you're actually coming around to ogle my sister, I'll have you executed. The event's going to take several hours, and I can't leave Anya alone for that long, Yor said. Would you watch her for me, Yuri? Huh? Yuri stiffened. He hadn't expected the conversation to go in this direction. He chewed over her words for a minute. So, you want me to spend the day with Lloyd Forger's daughter, while you spend the day somewhere else? That's right, she said. Will you help me out? And just like that, Yuri's perfect day off came crashing down all around him. What the hell? I was so excited to spend the day with my sister, and now I'm playing nursemaid to Chihuahua Girl. I should just have stayed home and surrounded myself with pictures of Yor while reading up on interrogation techniques. That'd be a billion times better than this. So deep was his despair, he thought he might collapse on the spot. Please, Yuri, Yor implored. You're the only one I can turn to. After hearing such a plea from the person he loved most in this world, he had no choice. Just leave everything to me, sis. 30 minutes later, Yuri was flipping through a magazine on the Forger's sofa, but he wasn't paying much attention to its contents. Yor had left the apartment, promising to return as quickly as possible, with a gift from the event. From the doorway, she'd pleaded with him, one last time, to take good care of Anya, then disappeared. Yuri's fixated mind had been replaying the moment ever since. Uncle Yuri, I'm bored. Anya was sprawled on a rug beneath the table with the Spy Wars book open in front of her. Kicking her legs up and down, Yuri put down his magazine and rose from the sofa. Then how about we do some studying, he asked. Studying. Anya's distaste was clear on her face. Yuri hadn't suggested it to torment her. Having spent very little time with children, he had no idea what they did for fun and had to fall back on memories of his own childhood. Hoping to get a good job so he could start taking care of his sister as quickly as possible, Yuri had thrown himself into studying a wide range of topics: journalism, law, medicine, engineering, so he'd be ready for any profession. That had left him with little time for play, though he'd never missed it. In fact, he took great pride in the depth of his knowledge and considered it the foundation of the man he'd become. Tell me what your weakest subject is, Yuri instructed. I'll work with you on that. I don't have any weak subjects, Anya said. I'm great at everything. Yuri didn't buy that for a second. Don't you lie to me. If you won't tell me, then we'll just have to work on all of them. Anya let out a terrible squeal. Is this dimwit really an Eden Academy student? Yuri thought. What a nightmare it must be for my poor sister to have to deal with this, just because she married some jerk who already had a kid. But what if I could teach Lloyd Spawn how to study effectively? I'm sure Yor's eyes would glitter like jewels with joy, and she'd say, oh, I knew I was right to turn to you, Yuri. She might even give me a little kiss as a reward, like she used to when we were children. Oh, my sweet, 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 sweet Yor. How I love you. Never in my life have I seen a more beautiful. Yuri felt a cold gaze asphyxiated somewhere near his forehead, which was enough to derail his thoughts. Looking down, he discovered Anya staring silently at him. When Yuri met her gaze, she sighed a deep, pitying sigh. Irritated, Yuri cleared his throat. Go to your room and bring out your notes and textbooks. Don't forget to grab some pencils. I'm not in the mood to study today, Anya said. You said you were bored, didn't you? Not that bored. Fine then, Yuri sighed. Go watch TV or something. He didn't like her enough to push her to better herself, and he knew it was unlikely to matter anyways. His obsession with his sister aside, Yuri was a realist. But Anya wasn't about to let up. There aren't any cartoons on right now, though, she whined. Then go nap, like that fat dog of yours, Yuri said, irritated, pointing to Bond, who was happily dozing on the rug. Why did they even have such a worthless dog anyways? How was such a lazy creature supposed to guard anyone? In fact, you should just go ahead and sleep till my sister gets back. Anya didn't seem particularly happy with that, but said nothing, choosing instead to glare at him in silence. What? He demanded. Say what you want to say. At that, Anya raced out of the living room. Yuri assumed she was going to her own bedroom to sulk, but she reemerged immediately, holding a notebook and pencils. She sat down on the rug, placed the notebook on the coffee table, and set to work diligently writing something. From time to time, she'd sneak a glance at Yuri, smile a sly smile, and immediately return her scribbling. Yuri glanced at her paper and flinched at the horrific penmanship in her long rows of messy letters. It was as if she dipped worms in ink and let them wriggle all over the paper. If this were a coded enemy message, he'd declare it impossible to crack. What is that? Some sort of demonic curse? It's creeping me out. It's my diary, Anya said. Her smile was so smug that it was nauseating. When Mama gets back, I'll show it to her. Yuri snatched the notebook away and made a determined effort to decipher what she'd written. Today is a holiday, but I was stuck at home with Uncle Yuri. He wouldn't play with me like Scruffy does. He ordered me to sleep all day like a dog. He's so mean. I hate my life. Yuri clutched his temples and fell to his knees with a scream. It really was a demonic curse. What would Yor think if she were to read this? He could already feel her disapproval. Yuri, you've gone too far, he imagined her saying. How could any sister ever love a terrible boy like you? Unable to cope with the despair and confusion, Yuri began banging his head into the coffee table. Anya's eyes widened. She gulped. Yuri abruptly stopped. Let's go out somewhere, he said. He rose unsteadily, rivulets of blood dripping down his face. You're bleeding, Anya said, pointing to the open wound on his forehead. Forget about that, he growled. We're going out to have fun now. Get your things, Chihuahua girl. Going on an outing, Anya sang from her seat on the streetcar next to Yuri. Stop kicking your seat, Yuri ordered, and it's pronounced outing. After working several all-nighters in a row, he'd been forced by his captain to take a day off, and now he was spending it riding on a streetcar with the tag-along child of the lowlife who had stolen his sister. Yuri couldn't suppress a deep sigh at his misfortune. He was a highly regarded secret police officer, bound by oath to defend his country. What did I do to deserve this? The old woman in the neighboring seat was watching as Anya giggled and sang. Why isn't she adorable? She said. Not even a little, thought Yuri. Millie, he suddenly recalled. That's how this happened to me. He was supposed to have spent today talking to Yor, helping Yor, eating Yor's cooking, but that dream had been destroyed when Millie, some co-worker of his sister, had caught a cold. Does she even really have a cold, he was wondering? Isn't the timing a little too suspicious? What if this so-called Millie just didn't want to deal with the hassle of working on a holiday and decided to push her duties on my sweet, trusting, angelic, and also beautiful sister? If that's the case, she deserves nothing less than to be executed. This world has no place for vermin like her. But no, Yuri stopped himself. Whoever this Millie is, she may be a treasured colleague of yours. If anyone deserves to be executed for this, it's clearly Lloyd Forger, for dumping his spawn onto my sister so he could go goof off at work all day. Damn him. If only he were some sort of spy so I could have him publicly executed for his crimes. It was in the midst of this fantasy that the tram arrived at their stop. Brimming with excitement, Anya leapt onto the platform. So where are we going, Uncle Yuri? An amusement park? I want to ride a Ferris wheel. If you're going to play, shouldn't it at least be educational? We're going to Kid Street Workplace, he announced. Anya couldn't quite catch that. Kid Street Walkers? She repeated back to him. A young woman who'd been walking nearby snorted out a laugh. Yuri grimaced, as if this experience wasn't embarrassing enough. Kid, street, work, place, he enunciated carefully. One of my coworkers told me he and his wife took their kid there the other day. What sort of place is this? Anya asked skeptically. Is it fun? To put it simply, it's a government-accredited indoor amusement facility that helps kids choose a future occupation by offering simulated experiences of various jobs that might interest them, Yuri explained. It was created to spur interest in the fields that are important to Ostania's future. Law, military, medicine, scholarship, engineering, and so on. Anya looked up at her uncle with glazed-over eyes. Uncle, I don't know whatever language you're babbling about. Yuri sighed and reiterated his explanation, more slowly this time. Basically, you play at different jobs so you can decide which one you want to do when you're older. The sparkle returned to Anya's eyes. She squeezed her hand in front of her and started breathing heavily. That does sound fun. Right, now hurry up. As Yuri set about finding the facility, he felt something brush against his fingers. Realizing Anya was attempting to hold his hand, he yanked it away. What are you doing? He asked. An outings, Mama and Papa hold my hand, said Anya. Scruffy, too. Who's Scruffy? Demanded Yuri. You mentioned him before. He had no desire to hold this small child's hands, but if she were to become lost, he would never be able to look Yor in the eye again. Reluctantly, he took her hand in his. It was warm and slightly clammy. Worse than that, it was sticky. Disgusting. Did she not properly wash her hands? And it's so tiny. How old are you? He asked. I'm 6, she said. Huh? Yuri furrowed his brows. Her hand seemed smaller than he would have expected from a child her age. Or maybe it was bigger. He realized he had no idea how large the hand of a 6-year-old was supposed to be. Yor used to hold my hand like this, he remembered. Of course, when I was her age, mine was never sticky from candy. How long till we get there, Uncle Yuri? Probably about 10 more minutes. I'm excited, Anya exclaimed. Just try to stay focused and watch where you're going. But for all the coldness of his tone, Yuri hadn't noticed that little by little he'd unconsciously slowed his stride to match the walking pace of Anya's shorter legs. Welcome to Kid Street Workplace, called out a smiling employee as soon as Anya and Yuri stepped through the door. Here on Kid Street, you can learn about all sorts of different jobs. Go play and experience everything that workplace has to offer, and maybe you'll discover what you want to be when you grow up. The facility was much larger than Yuri had expected. It really did seem like an entire tiny town for children. There was a miniature fire station, hospital, courthouse, library, newsroom, post office, bank, publishing house, scientific laboratory, and more, all charmingly rendered in great detail. Cobblestones lined the streets, which had crosswalks, working traffic lights, and even a small bus shuttling kids from workplace to workplace. Parents and children walked the streets in pairs, most of the former looking strangely exhausted. A mother shambled by with the glazed eyes of a corpse, while a father sagged on a nearby bench as if he were a forgotten piece of luggage. Daddy, hurry, pleaded a little girl who looked a bit older than Anya, tugging at her father's arms. I want to be a fashion model next. Yeah, the father grumbled. I don't know about that. Look, Daddy's been putting on a little weight lately, and it's starting to show. How about you try working in that candy store instead? No, said the girl. I want to do the model one. Yuri watched the exchange with suspicion. His brow knitted. Who cares how fat you are, he wondered. Your daughter's the one who'll be modeling. No one cares about your pot belly. He looked at Anya, who was still just standing there, her mouth agape. How many times could you fit my house in here? She finally asked. Well, based on my estimate of the square footage of this facility, it could probably fit around 80 apartments, like the one you live in. 80? Anya gulped. So what do you want to do first? Yuri asked, flipping through the pamphlet he'd been handed at the entrance. Judge, scientist, bank clerk, he suggested. All occupations he'd aspired to in his own childhood. There's also prosecutor or lawyer. Those are good ones too. Let me see, Anya whined, jumping up and down to get a look at the pamphlet. Yuri glared down at her. You were given one at the entrance too, remember? Oh, Anya said. She retrieved the crumbled pamphlet that she crammed into her small pouch at her waist. So, Yuri asked again. We can't dismiss journalism, and if you have the physical strength, joining the military might not be a bad idea. I want to go here, Anya said, pointing to her crumbled pamphlet. As Yuri followed her finger, his face stiffened. I saw a police cartoon yesterday, she explained excitedly. When you're a police officer, you can jump down on bad guys and beat them up. Then you can throw them in jail and make them eat bad food. Yuri groaned. Just don't say things like that in front of my sister. He was already starting to regret bringing Chihuahua Girl here. Welcome to the police workplace, said a smiling young woman as they entered the child-sized police station. Like the other employees here, she was wearing what looked roughly like a police uniform. Here you can experience what it's like to work as a police officer. A father and son, who had apparently just finished the police experience, brushed by them, the excitement still clear on their faces. The boy turned towards Anya. I got to shoot a gun for the first time ever, he said, beaming with pride. Hit every target, too. Can you believe that? The boy's young father pushed him gently forward. Let's get moving now. He gave Yuri an apologetic nod. Sorry about that. Yuri reflexively nodded back. Next, I want to be a doctor, the son announced. This is supposed to be my day off, complained his father. Do I really have to put on a lab coat today, too? So what if you do, said the son. Hurry up. Today of all days, can't you let me do some other job? The father groaned. What was all that about, Yuri wondered. Gun? Bondman? At his side, Anya was excitedly mumbling something to herself. Yuri noticed a strange glimmer in her eyes as he looked down. 2/8 of ammunition. Yuri didn't know what to make of that old gleam and her strange utterances, but one thing was immediately clear. I can't let them give this child a gun. Okay, we're ready for you. The woman at the entrance did not look up from her clipboard as she spoke. The interrogation room is open, and the cast is ready to be interviewed. As part of your investigation, would you like to give it a try? Yeah, sure. That sounds great, said Yuri. He was so focused on keeping a gun out of Anya's hands that he had barely paid attention to what the woman had said. But I want to shoot a gun. I want to be Bond Man, Anya said, tugging on the sleeve of his jacket. Yuri decided to pretend he hadn't heard that. The changing rooms are back here for you to put on your police uniforms, the smiling woman said, gesturing behind her. All right, get to it, Yuri said, giving Anya a nudge in the indicated direction. Oh, I'm sorry, sir, the woman said. You and your little sister will both need to get into costume. She's not my sister, Yuri said. He's my uncle, Anya clarified. Oh, I'm sorry, the woman replied, looking up at Yuri with surprise. You look so young, I just assumed. Well then, you and your niece can get changed back there. Yuri had to fight back the impulse to clarify that she was in fact merely his step-niece. But in these dangerous times, drawing too much attention to himself might cause someone to report him to the secret police for suspicious behavior. Of course, Yuri was a secret police officer, but a report could still leave a blot on his record. I guess that means I have to be her uncle now. Luckily, he'd always had a talent for deception. Clenching his teeth, Yuri stated firmly, she'll do it by herself. He turned to Anya and curled his lips into the sort of smile an uncle would make while addressing a beloved niece. I'll wait here. You do what the nice lady says and be good, all right? Your smile looks creepy, Anya said. Yuri pretended not to have heard her. The smiling woman locked eyes with another employee who nodded. No longer smiling, she turned to address Yuri. I am terribly sorry, sir, but it is policy of this facility that guardians must share in the experience of the jobs with the children. What? The idea is that by sharing the child's experience, the guardians provides motivation and encourages the child to take joy in their work. I'm afraid we cannot offer access to our facilities to guardians who are unwilling to participate in the activities. While the woman was polite, her words had a clear undertone of an educator who had no tolerance for rule breaking. What the hell kind of rule is that? Yuri fumed. What possible point is there in having grown adults playing doctors and lawyers? What does any of that have to do with the motivation of kids? It made no sense at all, although he supposed it did explain why so many parents had seemed so exhausted or reluctant to allow their kids to choose certain activities. I should have pieced that together sooner, or better yet, I should have done more research before we came here in the first place. Yuri ground his teeth. It would have been so much easier to have just taken that fat dog to the park or something. We could leave and go somewhere else. Yuri glanced over at Anya, only to find her boring into him with an angry glare that spoke volumes. The clear threat contained within those eyes seemed to say, if you make me leave here, I'll write about it in my diary and show it to Mama. To prove her intentions, Anya flipped open the snap of her pouch, giving him a glimpse of the accursed page that she neatly torn from her diary and brought with her. Now, asked the woman, smiling again, if you're prepared to follow the policies of the Kid Street workplace, you can change into your uniforms over there, or will you be leaving us? Even as the young SSS officer felt his face burning with humiliation, he knew he had no choice. I'll go get changed. Damn it, thought Yuri. Why do I have to go through this stupid game of pretend? They entered a surprisingly realistic interrogation room where a cast member portrayed the suspect sat sulking on a metal chair in front of a desk. A new staff member explained that Anya and Yuri would be told the charges against the suspect, and they were supposed to interrogate a confession out of him in order to complete the activity. She told them that the details of the suspect's crime changed daily and that there wasn't any fixed script. The interrogations were all ad-libbed. Apparently, the cast members were mostly part-time workers, but the man who was playing the part today had put a lot of effort into making sure he fit a child's idea of what a criminal would look like, dressing all in black and even wearing a ski mask over his face. Someone should have taken that off, thought Yuri. No one would be allowed to wear a ski mask during an interrogation, and after they've gotten so many other details right too. Yuri took these things seriously and was already thoroughly irritated. The woman turned to Anya, who was now wearing a crisp blue police uniform and clearly champing on a bit to get started. Now, Officer Forger, why don't you try interviewing this suspect, she offered. Yeah, said Anya. Yuri, also dressed in uniform, fumed from his stiff steel chair in the corner of the room. His task was to record the suspect's answers. The woman introduced the suspect. This man is a criminal who sneaks into people's houses and steals their money and jewels, but he refuses to confess. Officer Forger, it's your job to get him to admit what he's done. Okie dokie, Anya snapped off a stiff salute to the woman, then turned to face the suspect, her face suddenly cold and grim. What the hell, thought Yuri. Anya lowered herself into the chair, shaking her head with a world-wearying sigh. She spoke in a soft murmur. You again, Jack? You just never learn, do you? Who the hell is Jack? Wondered Yuri. And what? She just gets to make up the fact that he's a repeated offender? Sure is cold out, Anya said wistfully. Looks like winter's here. Yuri furrowed his brows. Now she's writing in the season too? Anya rose up from the chair and slowly walked over to the window. Looking through the blinds, she said, You come from up north, don't you? It must be snowing up there by now. What, you think you can make me homesick by bringing up where I'm from? The suspect smirked. Well, you're wrong about that, officer. I bid farewell to my hometown long ago. My father and mother have both passed on. There's nothing for me there now. Nothing. Yuri was impressed at the way the man was rolling with all the new details his child interrogation had added to the story. He was a pretty good actor. Anya and the suspect stared at each other in a moment of uncomfortable silence. Don't you play the tough guy with me, John. Anya's voice was low and gritty, or at least that's probably how she intended it to sound. Yuri was screaming inside. His name was Jack. How could you forget that? You're the one who named him. You still have Margaret, Anya said. What about her? Who the hell is Margaret? But the suspect gasped at the name and looked up at Anya. Anya turned back from the window to meet his gaze. I know Margaret is still out there waiting for you, she said. The suspect stared at her. Atone for your crimes. Go back up north and make Margaret a happy woman, she commanded him. And at that, the suspect broke down in tears. You're right. I did it, he confessed. Anya stepped closer to him and patted him on the back. You want a burger? She murmured in her low interrogation voice. What the hell was that? Yuri gaped at the two of them, speechless. That was wonderful, the woman exclaimed, clapping her hands. What a brilliant idea to appeal to the suspect's conscience. Absolutely perfect. The man playing Jack, no wait, John, clapped along with her. Excellent interrogation work, Officer Forger, the woman said. I now present you with this badge to mark your successful completion of this activity. A childlike grin broke out on Anya's face as she accepted the shiny gold badge. I did good, she said. Her gritty cop voice had disappeared entirely. You did great, the woman said. At the end there, I was honestly on the brink of tears, the suspect said. You could make a great detective one day, miss. Anya beamed with pride. Well, the idea has crossed my mind, she said smugly. Yuri could see that their goal was to support and encourage their young patrons whenever they managed to not completely botch an activity. But still, he thought, no suspect would ever break down over an interrogation technique like that. If that sort of pathetic farce was all it took to reform a criminal, the world wouldn't need cops or secret police. And they expect this sort of activity to foster the next generation of talent for the future of Estonia? As Yuri chewed over those thoughts, the suspect left the room and was replaced with a new actor. This one was young and handsome, the sort of flashy young man one might see in a nightclub. Now, it's time for Officer Breer to experience an interrogation. Please, come over here, Officer Forger. You'll sit at the note-taker's seat. Good luck, Uncle, Anya said. Sure. Yuri rose to his feet without much enthusiasm and approached the woman for his briefing. Not that he had any intention of taking any of this seriously. If that last interrogation was good enough for them, then any half-assed effort would suffice, he figured. Officer Breer, the woman began, this man was arrested on suspicion of repeatedly abusing his wife. We would like you to extract a confession. He allegedly punched and kicked her because he was displeased with her cooking. He even broke her nose, which will take 2 weeks to. Somewhere in the middle of the woman's explanation, a switch flipped in Yuri's head. Without a word, he turned on his heel to face the suspect. Officer Breer, the woman said, I'm not done with the briefing. I've heard enough, Yuri said, lowering himself onto the chair in front of the suspect. Good day, sir, he addressed the man with a smile. I'm Officer Breer, and I'll be interviewing you today. Yuri's eyes studied the man from beneath his long hair. His handsome, cool guy face looked a little too much like Lloyd Forger's. This guy hit his wife just because she's a bad cook? Yuri's teeth clenched with a sharp click. He maintained the welcoming smile, but beneath it was a boiling stew of anger and hatred. You've been a bad boy, huh? Yuri said, in the comforting tone of a parent dealing with a small child. Hitting your wife, I mean. The suspect chuckled. Whoa there, officer. I never hit my wife or anything like that. She was the one who fell over and hurt herself. So you didn't do anything wrong? Yuri asked. The smile still lingered on his lips, but his eyes narrowed slightly. Nope, if anything, I'm the victim here. The man rambled on, airing grievances about his wife's lack of zeal for housework and how she only ever prepared the same handful of meals. Yuri leaned over the table and clasped his hands around the side of the man's head. And if I were to break all your teeth, smash your nose, and split your chin open, do you think maybe you'd fall over and hurt yourself? He smiled. If anything, I'd be the victim. Despite Yuri's cheerful demeanor, the suspect shuddered and audibly gasped. As Yuri stared dead into his eyes from only inches away, the smile faded from his lips. You beat your wife, he said icily. Even though she was a good woman who did nothing wrong and did nothing to provoke or resist you, you hit her. You should die for that, and I'll see to it that you will. No trial, just a summary execution at my own hands. He slid his hands down from the man's temple to his throat. Your death is the apology she deserves. The suspect shrieked in terror as the color drained from his face. His hands trembling, he stammered out a frantic stream of pleas. I'm sorry. I'll stop, I promise. I'll never hit my wife again. I mean, seriously though, I don't even have a wife. You know I'm just an actor, right? I'm totally single, and I don't even have a girlfriend. Please forgive me. The suspect, or rather cast member, broke down into sobs. Snapping back to himself again, Yuri quickly pulled back his hands. No, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to, he said. I guess I just got a little too into the role there. Still trembling, the man stared wordlessly at Yuri. The woman who'd briefed him also sat frozen in place, as an awkward silence fell over the fake interrogation room. It was Yuri's turn to pale. What did I just do? He asked himself. What happened to any half-assed effort should suffice. If Anya were to tell Yor about this, he could picture his sister's downcast face, bemoaning how she'd hardly even recognize the man he'd become. Oh no, he thought, with a start. Even worse, she could figure out that I'm not actually a diplomat, that I'm part of the SSS. All of this is Lloyd's fault, he decided. If the suspect hadn't made him think of Lloyd's stupid face, none of this would have happened. Yuri swore a silent vow of revenge against his brother-in-law. Uncle Yuri, so cool. Huh? From the note-taker's table, in the corner of the room, Anya had spoken softly, her voice wavering, but the words were clear. Yuri turned to meet her gaze and found a look of awe in her wide, sparkling eyes. She had never looked at him with such respect before. You're an interrogator genius, she said, her voice hushed. Interrogator, he corrected her, and I'm really not. This just happens to be part of my job. Anya read the unspoken sentence in his mind and began breathing heavily with excitement. Whoa, you do this all the time. Anya caught herself. Studying, I mean. You must study all the time to be so good at weird stuff like this. The actor and guide no longer seemed to be frozen in place. Their faces suddenly lit up, and they both abruptly broke into a passionate applause. That was so real, the actor said. You were so intense. For a second there, I almost thought, he chuckled nervously, I can't believe how much presence you brought to that. You should really pursue a career in acting, said the guide. Not only are you handsome, you're a total natural. I was scared out of my wits there. Oh, I don't know about that, stammered Yuri. No, seriously, she said. You were incredible. You had all the intensity of a real cop. If you want, I could introduce you to a few agents, the actor offered. You could really make a career out of this. Yuri laughed nervously. He hadn't been acting at all, just venting his hatred for Lloyd Forger. But that didn't mean he couldn't enjoy the attention. He was only 20 years old after all, and he still lived for praise the way he had as a child. Now, in a thoroughly good mood, he turned to Anya. Where to next? Anya grabbed his hand and headed off towards the next attraction. Uncle Yuri, I'm hungry, Anya moaned. Wow, is it that late already? We haven't eaten all day. Yuri realized. My tummy is so empty, I think I can feel my spine. Let's get a hot dog or something from the food court. After the police experience, they'd thrown themselves into all the Kid Street workplace jobs, one after another. Reporter, firefighter, judge, prosecutor, soldier, sculptor, doctor, and train conductor. They had completely forgotten about lunch. They sat at an indoor cafe that was built to look like an outdoor terrace. And as they were eating their hot dogs with soda for Anya and coffee for Yuri, the exhaustion suddenly caught up with them. Anya looked ready to fall asleep right there at the table. All the other customers around them seemed tired too. Yuri realized that the facility had emptied out significantly over the last hour or so. So which kind of work did you like the best? Yuri asked Anya as he sipped his coffee. Anya looked up at the ceiling. It was painted to look like a blue sky dotted with white puffy clouds. She sighed as if suddenly overwhelmed by the tediousness of it all. I did enough work today, she said. I'd rather play for a living. Yuri spewed out a mouthful of coffee and lapsed into a brief choking fit. He had not been expecting that response. What I really want to be is a cloud, Anya announced. Yuri stared in silence as he wiped his mouth. Or a bird, she added. Well, that was a massive waste of time, Yuri thought. He could almost hear a faint fizzle as all the day's hard work pettered away into nothingness. He was at a complete loss as to what to say. You could have picked anything lawyer, police officer, I don't care, but instead you want to be unemployed? Oblivious to Yuri's anguish, Anya returned her half-eaten hot dog to her plate and went rooting around in her pouch. She found her pamphlet and spread it out over the table. For our last stop, I want to go here, she said, pointing to the corner of the map. Why? Yuri asked bitterly. Is that where they teach you how to be a cloud? Uncle Yuri, Anya said, her eyes full of pity. People can't really be clouds. Yuri glared at her. How does a moron like her come up with such aggravating retorts? Can all children do that? What is it then? He finally asked, bending over her map. The tip of her finger was floating over a box marked Jewelry Factory. It claimed to offer children a chance to design and make items into brooches, necklaces, and earrings. Yuri was surprised. Since when are you into fashion? He asked. I'm always stylish, Anya insisted. Unfortunately, they were almost out of time. Yuri had left Yor a note, but he didn't want to risk worrying her. Well, we don't have time for that, he said. We need to go back to my sister. Anya's shoulders slumped. Ah, I wanted to bring a present home for Mama. Oh? Yuri's eyes widened in surprise. Mama said since she had the day off too, that we would go do all sorts of fun stuff, but then she had to work. And she said she was really sorry, and I told her it wasn't her fault, but Mama still felt so sad. Anya's words, however clumsy, struck a deep and familiar vein within Yuri. How many times had Yor profusely apologized to him when they were children for being too busy with work to spend time with him? It had always made him feel so helpless and miserable. That's why I wanted to make her a brooch out of a pretty bug or something, Anya said. No bugs, Yuri said quietly. My sister hates bugs. Make her something else. Anya looked up at him, quizzically. But you said we didn't have time. So hurry up and finish eating already, Yuri said. We'll make it quick. Anya's face lit up, and she gobbled down what was left of her hot dog before springing out of her chair. Okay, instead of a bug brooch, I'll make her a flower one. No flowers, Yuri said. I'm going to make her a hairband with a flower on it. What? Anya said. There's sheer effrontery. For such a dim kid, you know a lot of random words, Yuri mumbled as the pair walked together towards the jewelry workshop. He hadn't even noticed that he'd taken her small hand as soon as it had brushed against his. I'm sure they'll be getting home soon, Yor said to herself. She glanced up at the wall clock as she arranged the salad, baked apples, and veal schnitzel she'd brought home with her. She'd intended to leave the event much sooner, but it had run longer than expected. She'd frantically raced home as soon as she could, only to find Anya and Yuri gone and a note on the coffee table that read, I took Anya to Kid Street Workplace. Her co-worker Sharon had mentioned Kid Street Workplace before, so Yor knew it was a popular spot for kids, but it had never occurred to her that she'd come home to an empty apartment. The idea that Yuri had taken Anya somewhere to play left her feeling strangely anxious and twitchy, but it did look like Yuri had thought to fill up Bond's food and water ball before leaving. For all his talk of not recognizing her marriage, he'd stepped up for their family when she'd needed him most. He really is such a good guy, Yor thought. Sure, he can be short-tempered and stubborn, but in his heart, I know he's a sweet person. Yor smiled as she set out a slice of peanut chocolate cake for Anya and a bottle of Yuri's favorite wine. Lloyd had said he wouldn't be back until late, so they could eat as soon as Yuri and Anya got home. Yor beheld the table and smiled. It can't compete with Lloyd's cooking, but I think I did pretty good for myself. She wished she had enough time to make them a home-cooked meal, but at least by getting home late, they'd given her time to make a pot of soup. Yor had never attempted to make a cold potato soup before, but she was pretty confident she'd nailed the recipe. It did smell a little strange, but that was probably just from the spices, she figured. I hope they come home soon, she said. Right, Bond? Bond obediently barked in response. Do you think they'll like the soup? It's a shame I accidentally added so many onions, though. So I can't let you try it for me, Bond. Woof, Bond grumbled, slowly backing away. Just then, the dog's ears twitched, and he let out a happy bark. His tail wagged as he ran towards the apartment door. It seemed Anya and Yuri were home at last. I'm basically a genius, Anya said. If anything, my flower brooch is too good. If anyone's a genius, it's me, Yuri insisted. Look at how cute this hairband is, perfectly worthy of my beautiful sister. When she sees mine, she'll burst into tears, Anya predicted. Maybe, he countered, but it'll be tears of joy that she cries when she sees mine. Wanna bet, Uncle Yuri? You're on, Chihuahua girl, but that's still step-uncle to you. Whatever you say, Uncle Yuri. Yor couldn't make out exactly what they were saying, but she could hear the sound of a minor squabble from the hallway behind the doors. It was as if being with Anya made Yuri revert to a child himself. 2 peas in a pod, Yor thought. Chuckling, she ran after Bon, eager to welcome her daughter and little brother home.